Live from the studios of NBC 12 and ABC 25, this is First Coast News at 11.
You go with somebody your whole 18 years of living and have them snatched from you?
The voice you're hearing is Kamiyah Mobley. For the past 18 years, she's been living under a different name given to her by the woman she believed was her mother. Tonight, after nearly 2 decades, she knows the truth and her real name. Now, for the first time, we hear her side of her story.
You heard Kamiyah Mobley speaking right there for the first time. You probably know we've been telling you about her. She's the young woman who was taken as a newborn from a Jacksonville hospital, and then she was found 18 years later.
18 years later, and all that time she was raised as a Lexus man and go in South Carolina. Tonight, she's speaking to ABC News for the first time since having her world really turned upside down. First Coast News' Stephen Dial is in South Carolina tonight. He joins us with this exclusive interview.
Kamiyah Mobley speaking out for the first time in an exclusive interview with ABC tonight. Has been a whirlwind couple of days for the teen after finding out that 18 years ago she was kidnapped at birth.
You go with somebody your whole 18 years of living and have them snatched from you, it wouldn't go well for anybody.
She was the little baby everyone on the First Coast searched for 18 years ago. Kamiyah Mobley kidnapped at birth from a Jacksonville hospital. 18 years later, she discovered the woman she called Mom, Gloria Williams, was not her mother.
It's not going well for me.
Investigators say Williams took the child and raised her as her own in Walterboro, South Carolina. Tuesday, Williams was taken into JSO custody. Williams will appear in court in Jacksonville tomorrow morning. First Coast News will have a crew there. In Walterboro, Stephen Dial, First Coast News.
And you can hear what else Kamiyah Mobley is saying about all of this tomorrow on Good Morning America. You can catch more of that exclusive interview right here on ABC 25 at 7 o'clock after Good Morning Jacksonville.
And listen to this, in Houston, 2 sisters have been found alive more than 30 years after being kidnapped. Police say these 2 women right here were kidnapped, Kimberly and Kelly Yates of Rhode Island, by their mother and taken to Texas, and they were living under different names in 1985. Kimberly was just 3 at the time. Kelly was 10 months old. An anonymous tip led police to them. Their father is overwhelmed tonight.
I'm dumbfounded. I mean, it's so new to me also. You people probably know more about it than I do. I've always been trying to find my children. And now at least it's up to them to get in touch with me.
The sisters are now in their 30s and they haven't seen their father since they were taken. Their mother, Elena Yates, is now in jail facing kidnapping charges.
Kamiyah Mobley's case and the one in Houston are encouraging families who are dealing with similar cold cases. It certainly had an impact on Caylee Cummings' family in Putnam County. Haley, you might remember, was just 5 years old when she vanished from her Satsuma home back in 2009. And to this day, her case remains unsolved. Her great-grandmother, Annette Sykes, says it's astounding to hear about Kamiyah being found alive and well 18 years after she disappeared, and she's not giving up hope.
Told me that it's like, in my mind, why couldn't it be Haley? But thank God for that other mother who had been missing that child for 18 years. She missed out on everything in that child's life.
The man suspected of gunning down an Orlando police officer has now been captured.
That's right, that's breaking news that we've been talking about tonight. This is new video we're about to take a look at of Markeith Lloyd taken into custody. You see him right there. His face is bloody and bruised. Lloyd is accused of killing Master Sergeant Deborah Clayton in a Walmart parking lot last week. Lloyd was previously wanted for killing his pregnant ex-girlfriend. Police say Lloyd was arrested using handcuffs belonging to the fallen officer.
Don't scandalize my son's name off of fame. Please don't do that.
The family of a slain teenager is outraged tonight after they say police and the media mischaracterized their loved one. 16-year-old Kamiyah Peterson was killed in that shooting yesterday afternoon at the Jacksonville landing. A 13-year-old was also injured. So far, no one's been arrested. And tonight, dozens gathered at the steps of the landing with some strong words for JSO. First Coast News' Julia Janae joins us now live downtown. And Julia, I know his mom told the crowd that her son was not in a gang.
That's right, Heather. I'm here at the landing where everyone was gathered today, and these boarded up windows behind me, shattered by gunfire, are some of the evidence of last night's shooting that took Kamiyah Peterson's life. Now, the investigation continues into what happened and who pulled the trigger. And while authorities are linking this crime to gang activity and to the Art Walk shooting that happened 2 weeks ago, the family of Kamiyah says those details are impossible.
His heart was pure. He was never disrespectful. Everybody loved him. He went to school every day.
Kamiyah's mother, Manatee Peterson, speaking fervently at a vigil for her son.
Whatever y'all putting out on my son about him being at the Art Walk, he was home with me. He was home with me.
Peterson addressing JSO's suspicion that Monday night's shooting was related to the Art Walk shooting 2 weeks ago. The victim's mom saying her son approached police for help that night just before being shot.
If he was a gang member, why would he go to the police? If he was a gang member, he would have handled it on his own. It's sad that you label a 16-year-old honor student as a gang member.
Get your facts right.
That upsets me to my heart.
A label Peterson's relatives say ignores a life.
Today, it's about public opinion when it comes to the case and trying to find out who really did it. So if everybody's thinking, oh, it's gang related, like, oh, this is another one of those gang members shooting each other, so we don't care about the case. I think the police slacks on that, and they won't investigate the case like they should. Good kid, he was doing good in school, he wanted to make something of himself.
I feel, to be honest with you, that they have to put a story together, and so they feel that since it happened so close, that it may have been related because of the recent activities. But do your homework. Do your homework first.
My son's name is not going to go in vain. I'm not going to stop until I receive justice for Kamiyah.
Now, we asked yesterday about suspect information for last night's shooting. We were told by authorities that they don't have any information to release, but they have detained several individuals and that 30 people were witnesses to this and they are being interviewed. Now, along with the Art Walk shooting 2 weeks ago, no charges have been filed in either of those yet. For now, reporting at the Jacksonville landing, Julia Janae, First Coast News.
Hopefully someone will step forward with information. Julia, thank you. And today, we caught up with Jacksonville Mayor Lenny Curry to talk about this recent crime wave around the city, including that pair of high-profile shootings in downtown. Take a listen.
I'm concerned about our entire city. I'm concerned about every neighborhood, north side, east side, west side, south side, the beaches. You know, crime has touched every part of the city. And the entire city matters. Every zip code matters.
And the mayor says cutting crime remains his #1 priority. He plans to work with law enforcement to figure out exactly what needs to be done, what can be done. And for more on this shooting and to also hear from Sheriff Mike Williams, just head over to our website, firstcoastnews.com.
And this just in, tonight, the Matthews Bridge has reopened after causing a traffic headache earlier. The eastbound lanes were closed for more than an hour, we would say. Traffic was backed up for so long, we're told some drivers were standing outside their cars. Officials tell us this was all caused by a serious crash where someone was hurt. And tonight we're getting a look at new evidence being used against a former Jacksonville firefighter. This video shows the moments money was allegedly stolen from his co-workers. You see 25-year-old Joshua Williams there. He's accused of stealing from different fire stations around Jacksonville. After this investigation, Williams resigned from the Jacksonville Fire Department. He is expected in court next week.
Tonight, President Obama has decided to commute the prison sentence of Chelsea Manning. Manning was serving 35 years in prison for leaking classified information to WikiLeaks. The decision was made despite the objections of Secretary of Defense Ash Carter. Back in 2013, Manning pleaded guilty and apologized, with attorneys painting her actions as those of a naive whistleblower, not of a traitor. Manning is now scheduled to be released this May.
New tonight, the city of Orlando has released the first detailed photos from inside the Pulse nightclub. They were taken by police after the June 12th mass shooting. The photos offer one of the first looks into the building, showing abandoned drinks and bullet holes in the walls. They show disarray in the bathrooms and the giant blast SWAT teams blew in the exterior walls to draw out the gunmen and rescue survivors who had been trapped there for about 3 hours. They also show the Kevlar helmet that likely saved the life of an officer by stopping 49 people who were killed.
A former Jacksonville sheriff's officer is planning to testify against the city in JSO over what he says was a lack of training. Jeff Edwards says that would have helped him avoid fatally shooting an unarmed black man in 2012. First Coast News' Jason Rantala explains why the former officer's attorney says he's finally stepping forward.
In May of 2012, former JSO officer Jeff Edwards shot and killed Davinian Williams during a traffic stop, a shooting for which Edwards was fired.
I don't know of any other case like that.
Attorney Rufus Pennington with the Coker firm in Jacksonville calls it a breakdown in training, specifically JSO not enforcing its early warning program, which Pennington says was not in place until after that 2012 fatal shooting. The early warning program takes officers off their patrol if they exhibit warning signs like behavioral problems. Pennington is speaking on behalf of the former officer.
He believes that if the early warning system had been actually in place, instead of just for show, he would have been picked up and there would have been an intervention and retraining, and this never would have happened.
Pennington says Edwards received 5 instances of using excessive force with a taser and 3 citizens' complaints of racially biased policing, all before that shooting. Things Pennington says should have taken Edwards off patrol.
If it's backed up by documentation, which he says it is and I believe it is, then I think it carries a great deal of weight.
Pennington says Edwards was originally told his shooting was not in violation of policy. A review by then Sheriff John Rutherford from 2013 said otherwise.
But when the early warning system is a piece of paper that's not implemented, when training has to be modified after a shooting instead of before shooting, you can draw your own conclusion.
That was Jason Rantala with that story for us tonight. Well, listen to this. There's another manatee in trouble here on the First Coast. But tonight, that manatee is nowhere to be found. And the reason rescue crews are worried about it, we're going to talk about it when we come back.
Plus, a little girl gets stuck inside of a chimney here in Florida. How she ended up there and how she's doing now.
And is it winter or spring? We're going to be in the lower 80s tomorrow, starting off with a bit of morning fog, but storms possible by the weekend. I'll have that forecast after the break.
The search is on tonight for a manatee many fear may be in danger. This is happening in San Marco. This is new video where officials are combing the water for the sea cow. That's from earlier today. FWC says they are concerned because water at this time of year could be just too cold. Neighbors have seen it swimming around, and one of them considered calling authorities, thinking it was a gator.
Turns out to be a manatee, so mistaken identity. I feel definitely more compassionate towards the manatee than I would towards the alligator.
Tonight, SeaWorld is on standby just in case the manatee is caught and needs to be nursed to health.
And back in November, you remember this manatee got stuck in a storm drain not far away in Ortega in Jacksonville. We streamed its live rescue on Facebook. 1 million people at one point tuned in to see that. Once that manatee was rescued, it was sent to SeaWorld to be nursed back to health. And then earlier this month, it was released back into the wild.
An 8-year-old girl in Clearwater is okay tonight after being stuck in a neighbor's chimney. Yeah. Firefighters say the girl climbed up a pole, got onto the roof of the house next door, and then she just somehow fell into the chimney. Firefighters had to cut into the chimney to get the little girl out.
They were faced with a tough situation right off the bat, not something that we specifically trained for, and went out and worked hard. And anytime there's a child involved, obviously emotions are very high for the crew.
They managed to get out. That girl managed to get out only with a bruised knee.
Wow. Well, a Georgia man likely still very shaken up tonight after a massive sinkhole, look at that, swallowed his truck. This happened in the parking lot of a car wash in Hall County. The driver says he thought a small plane may have crashed when he stopped to check it out. The truck was carrying about 1,600 gallons of water. It weighed 55,000 pounds. Happy to say the driver's okay. The truck, though, it's stuck there. It's going to be there at least until tomorrow morning.
A massive icicle came crashing down into a home this week. Check this out. A Montana woman says it fell right through her ceiling. She says the icicle formed because her furnace exhaust pipe had come loose after having her roof repaired in the summer. She says she's thankful to be alive.
Something drips on me and I'm like, ooh, and I look up and here's this icicle hanging out of the closet.
She says after this mishap, she recommends everyone get in the attic and check things out every once in a while. I don't know what I would do.
I've
if
never
that
heard of
happened
anything
to
like
me,
that
me
happening.
either.
Yeah, wow.
Wow.
Just come crashing through the roof.
Wow.
Okay, well, you got some great, beautiful pictures of the
my
sunset
gosh.
tonight,
Yeah,
right?
it was beautiful. People were outside enjoying the warm temperatures, and we got this one from Darlene, our hashtag FCN Sunset. So thanks, Darlene, for sending this one. This comes from East Palatka, and man, I just got a lot of your pictures with the very colorful skies across all of the First Coast. So we really encourage you to send you our pictures because we're stuck here in the studios, and I love to show off our beautiful skies across the area. So 61 degrees right now at Craig Airport, 54 already at Cecil Field. We're at 59 degrees in Homerville, and those temperatures will slowly drop a few more degrees, only in the upper 50s tonight. In Jacksonville, 57, and just a little bit warmer at the beaches. Patchy fog expected, not widespread dense fog like we saw this morning. So fog tracker shows by midnight, some of that fog beginning to develop, but it doesn't get as dense as it did this morning. So not expecting the dense fog advisories, although for our friends farther out towards the west on the Gulf Coast and in the Panhandle, they likely will be dealing with that dense fog because the winds are now coming out of the southwest versus off of the Atlantic. 82 tomorrow, record high temperature for January 18th is 83 degrees, so we're going to be just shy of that, but pretty much a carbon copy of what we saw this afternoon with partly sunny skies, at times a few more clouds than sunshine, southwest breeze at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. Now, if you want, head to the beaches. Maybe it's going to be a little bit cooler, of course, on the coast, 77 degrees. High tide will be right around lunchtime. And that surf temperature, though, still in the lower 60s, so it reminds us that it is January. Really nice boating weather overall and low risk of rip currents with quiet seas, quiet surf, and that UV index, though, still moderate. You can still get a sunburn in the middle of January. Maybe you also want to head golfing. 58 degrees by 8 o'clock, but by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, warming to 80 degrees. Plentiful sunshine if you want to get outdoors. So what are those weather headlines? Well, the spring-like warmth is continuing. Tomorrow's going to be the peak of the warmth, and we stick in the upper 70s for the rest of the week. Foggy mornings continuing with just a bit more humidity in the air, then late week rain and weekend thunderstorms like by Saturday and then also on Sunday. So you can see our futurecast here keeps that storm track up to our north at least through Thursday, and then look at that, we'll have to check out towards the west by late Thursday, but for now high pressure is in control. You can see that line of stronger storms begins to approach by late Thursday and into Friday, and then things stay pretty unsettled through the weekend. I think the best weekend day will be Sunday, although there is a chance for thunderstorms each day, but by Sunday night is when that last round of thunderstorms will come with that cold front. Leftover showers on Monday, but by next week, we'll be back to seasonable temperatures. Now it's time for sports with Chris Porter.
Thank you, Lauren. Two Jaguars rookies received some recognition today, plus the Providence Stallions at home tonight, taking on the Fighting Christians of University Christian for the Jam. Sports is up next. Hello, everybody. The Jaguars still haven't named their offensive coordinator yet, but it sounds like they found a defensive line coach. There are reports Clemson co-defensive coordinator / defensive end coach Marion Hobby will join the Jags likely as a D-line coach. Hobby spent the past 6 years on the Tiger staff. He has also coached at Duke, Ole Miss, and with the New Orleans Saints. Former 49ers head coach Mike Nolan interviewing for the Jaguars linebackers coach job. That's according to reports. Nolan coached the Chargers last year after a 3-year stint as the DC with the Atlanta Falcons. Some great news today for Jaguars rookies Jalen Ramsey and Yannick Ngakoue, both named to the Pro Football Writers of America All-Rookie Team. Ramsey, who was a first-round pick, had an outstanding year. Ngakoue had 8 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, and an interception. Both players should be major contributors to the defense moving forward.
I'm sure that he'll appropriately absorb all of those things.
Time out.